On the rundown for today's San Francisco 49ers report, did Brandon Aiyuk hint at a trade to the Washington Commanders? We're going to explore that because he shared a photo of him watching Commanders spring tape on TikTok. Bleacher Report also proposing just a ludicrous trade that I would not make and pull the trigger on if I was John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. And then we're going to take some questions from the faithful. Let's first take a look at our July rival sub-battle. Let's overtake the Dallas Cowboys report. I hate the Cowboys. Do you hate the Cowboys as well? Well, let's get a victory against them once again, not just on the field because the Niners recently have dominated Dallas, but also inside the walls of Chat Sports. Since July 1, Cowboys report picking up 138 new subscribers, Niners report at 98. We are beating the Seahawks, but let's distance ourselves from the fraudulent Seattle Seahawks, and let's overtake the fraudulent Dallas Cowboys. A Brandon Aiyuk trade to Washington. Let's explore it here. I know a lot of you are fatigued by the Aiyuk trade talk, but I'm just doing my job, and there continues to be smoke, and where there's smoke, there's fire. Bleacher Report putting together an article that included firework trades honoring July 4th, that would transform the league in 2024. They have Aiyuk being sent to the Commanders, and there are a lot of ties that link Aiyuk to Washington. What are they? This is why Brandon Aiyuk could be eyeing Washington and why Washington could be eyeing Brandon Aiyuk. Adam Peters was the Niners' former assistant general manager. He's now the new GM with the Commanders. Washington has the second most cap space in the NFL right now, and next year in 2025, more than $70 million in cap space. Aiyuk, best friends with Jaden Daniels. He brought him on the set of the Pivot podcast and said specifically he'd like to play for him if he can't reach a deal with San Francisco. They overlapped and played with one another at Arizona State. And Aiyuk, over the weekend, posting a photo of him watching Jaden Daniels during Commanders OTAs from the spring. And I'm not even sure how this is legal, but Aiyuk posted this on his TikTok page. Commanders rocking Jane Daniels rocking the number 5 in that Commanders uniform. Clearly some film that Aiyuk is checking out from OTAs or mandatory minicamp. And I think it's all pretty interesting. And that's why there continues to be all of this buzz behind a potential Aiyuk trade to Washington. And Aiyuk literally said, if I don't get a deal done with San Francisco, I'd like to play for Washington or the Pittsburgh Steelers. And on top of that, Bleacher Report proposing this Aiyuk trade as part of that aforementioned article, where the Niners only get back a second-round pick in 2025 and a third-round pick in 2026. I know that I said this before the draft, but my point still stands. Brandon Aiyuk was taken 25th overall in the 2020 draft. He's gotten better all 4 years he's been in the NFL. Last year, he was the second-team All-Pro, meaning he's one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League. The starting point in negotiations, if I'm willing to trade Brandon Aiyuk, or we can't come to an agreement, is a first-round pick to match that. I get it, the acquiring team has to pay Brandon Aiyuk, but if I'm trading away a special player, I need something good back. And a second-round pick in 2025 and a third-round pick in 2026 simply does not cut it. And it's not like Aiyuk has a lot of leverage. Fifth-year option, he's under contract, $14+ million, and San Francisco could put the franchise tag on him next year. I would not make this trade if I'm the Niners. Here was Bleacher Report's reasoning behind it, and I'll share the screen here. A trade of Aiyuk would indicate a few things. One, that San Francisco's brass was ultimately forced to throw in the towel on extending their star wideout. The other, that former Niners assistant general manager Adam Peters is not shying away from acquiring a player of Aiyuk's caliber to place around his new signal caller in Jaden Daniels, a close friend of Aiyuk. It was just weeks ago when Daniels, Aiyuk's teammate during their time at Arizona State, joined the Niners wideout on FaceTime to discuss Aiyuk's plans. In a post to TikTok in June, Aiyuk added further intrigue to his current contract situation, saying to Daniels, "They don't want me back." Washington has a pair of dynamic wideouts in Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson. The team also drafted Luke McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey's brother, in the 3rd round, but adding Aiyuk would elevate the group to arguably the best trio of wideouts in the game. Keep in mind, they probably would want to surround Jane Daniels during his rookie contract with as many weapons as possible with that cap space. Aiyuk and Daniels' relationship has been well documented this offseason, and if the Niners are to move their stud pass catcher elsewhere, Washington could be the favorite to land his services. The Commanders also have $37 million in cap room right now and $77.2 in cap room next year that they could pay Aiyuk. If I'm San Francisco, I want a Terry McLaurin, I want a Jahan Dotson, I want a Jonathan Allen. And if you can't give me that, you got to give me the 1st round pick. If not that, no bueno. Would you make this trade? Niners get a 2nd round pick and a 3rd round pick, as I noted. Commanders get Aiyuk, and you send him in conference to an emerging team? Hell nah. A for accept, D for decline. Let me know down in the comment section right now. Barry Z, with this one coming in. If we trade Brandon Aiyuk to the Commanders, could we get Terry McLaurin back? See, that's a player that I would think about bringing back if I'm San Francisco. He's a good player who's been a very productive player. He's also a lot cheaper than what Brandon Aiyuk is going to demand. Terry McLaurin's contract, cap hit in 2024 of $24.1 million, cash $18.5, and he's under contract through the 2025 season. So you get that team control there, and you get to save a little bit of money, and you bring in a player who's been highly productive during his time in the National Football League. So that's what I would kind of be asking for. Now, I know the Niners drafted Ricky Pearsall in round 1, Jacob Cowing a little bit later, but they're rookies. And this is a team that has Super Bowl aspirations. I don't give away special. I don't trade away special. You got burned with the DeForest Buckner trade, and I'm not doing that again. I'm not allowing history to repeat itself. Wet Noodle, hot take here. I see us signing a safety after week 1 of the preseason. I could see it happening. During our live show this week, talking a lot about that safety spot. Do you bring back Deshaun Gibson after the suspension? Could Renardo Green get snaps there? Do you sign a talented, coveted safety who's still out there in a Justin Simmons, a Quandre Diggs, a Kareem Jackson? I would not go the route of Jamal Adams. Lorenzo Ramos, who's going to be the 2nd linebacker? Fair question, and that's obviously until Dre Greenlaw can come back. When does he come back? That's the big question. Tore his Achilles in February. I think that he's going to start the year on PUP, and we'll see him midway point of the year, best case scenario, if not toward the end of the year. Maybe we don't see Dre Greenlaw at all. Like the Achilles, that's one of my worst fears in life. Getting in a car crash that I can't control, helicopter crash, plane crash, getting bitten by a shark, and tearing my Achilles. All of my biggest fears right there. Scares the shit out of me. As for who the 2nd linebacker is going to be, Fred Warner, obviously. You brought in Devondre Campbell to be the holdover plan, but look out for D. Winters and Jalen Graham. And then outside of that, you have Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. But I'm very high on D. Winters and Jalen Graham going into year 2. Fred Warner is as well. And Devondre Campbell talking about how he's loving football for the first time in a little while after a sour ending to his tenure with the Green Bay Packers. But he was a first-team All-Pro back in 2021. Ricardo Regaza. Hopefully I pronounced that right, my man. What position do you think Pooney is going to play? Right guard. Right now he's the 2nd string right guard. And I think that's going to be the position for him at the next level. Arms are a little bit shorter to play tackle. Now in a pinch, he has said that he can play there. The Niners have said in a pinch he could play there. But I think you maximize him by playing him at guard. Leon Sandcastle, do you think Aiyuk could buy Jonathan Allen and Luke McCaffrey? Now that's pretty interesting, where you trade away Brandon Aiyuk, you get Jonathan Allen, you bulk up at defensive tackle. The depth there, a little bit of a concern, even though you remake that room by bringing in Malik Collins, and you land Luke McCaffrey as well. And then you have that young stable of wideouts in Luke McCaffrey, Jacob Cowing, and Ricky Pearsall. The issue with that I think you have 3 slot guys. Who's going to play on the outside down the road? Maybe Pearsall could, but last year at Florida, he played a majority of the snaps out of the slot. Good question, though. That was fun. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you can tune into everything that we do. You can be informed on all things Niners, and you can be a part of the movement here on the show.